This is gonna be real fun. I'm just trying to see what can I do to make this thing happen right for you guys. Okay. Yeah, everything. Hey, hey, welcome to Knowledge is Power podcast live, and I've got a special guest tonight who will be hosting. Let me cut the music down. There we go. There we go. All right, we'll cut the music down, and we'll bring it back. Okay. Hey, yes, again, we're back again with Knowledge is Power podcast live, and let me just tell you guys what is going on here. And what's going on here with Knowledge is Power podcast is that every first Thursday of the month of each month, we're going to have Chris Jones as our host. Chris is going to be the host for the all new Round Table Talk Show. And what's going on a Round Table Talk Show is that it's a Q&A. You can ask questions. They're going to make sure they give you answers. Just comment in the comment box, and that's all you have to do. Just come in on it and say, hey, I want to say something. I want to ask you something. So just do that, and so that we can have that information. There we go. Let me put it on the screen. There we go. You have questions, can be posted in the comment section, and the panelists will answer as many as they can. Again, welcome to Knowledge is Power Podcast Live. I'm Tony Renfro. I will be producing the show every first Thursday of each month. Chris Jones is the host. How you doing, Chris?
Good evening, everybody. All is well. Tony Renfro, also known as Big Bro. Also, I do want to welcome Trisha Primo to the show as well.
Hi
she's
guys.
a, she's one of the table shakers.
Yeah,
Be nice.
yeah. Hey,
I rattle it.
Yeah, right.
so Chris, tell everybody about your new show. What you gonna do every Thursday? Now remember, folks, it's every Thursday at 9 p.m. Every first Thursday of each month. So
Yeah,
next
he said
month,
it right the first time.
yeah,
So, like, for right now, being that we're just coming back, we definitely want to be cognizant of your time and different things like that. But as of right now, we're just going to be on the air every first Thursday of the month so that we can build our listeners and viewers up. And at your request, we'll go to every Thursday of the month or first and third, however.
right, right.
But again, it's based on our listeners and our viewers of the Knowledge is Power podcast and our original listeners and viewers of the Roundtable Talk. As you remember, there is also Perry Busby, who is a member, our co-host of the Roundtable Talk, and he is said to be on later on this evening as he's doing his West Side Gazette podcast also.
What,
But
what,
yeah,
great guys.
did you fart?
I'm gonna.
Really?
It's the round table. It's the round table. Nothing is, and I'm glad you did it. I'm glad
I
I'm
you
get a
glad
did
you
it.
could
little,
get that out.
I'm
That's
get a
what
little
glad
this
you
is
did
for.
it.
out. Hey guys,
Yeah.
I'm gonna check out, and I'll see you at the end of the show. Thank you everyone for joining Knowledge is Power Podcast, all new roundtable talk show. We're gonna be here every first Thursday each month. We're gonna grow until we on here at least twice a month. So enjoy the show. Chris going to talk about the national and local news issues that's going on in the local area, our community in Southeast Texas, events, and he's going to discuss things that we need to know as citizens of Southeast Texas, what is going on in our city. So, Chris, take over, and I'm out of here, guys. And remember, I'm here every Sunday at 7 p.m. My show at Knowledge Power Podcast with my next guest is going to be David Willard. We're going to talk about one of the black pioneers of Beaumont, Texas, Elmo Willard. And I want you guys to be able to join that show so you can learn about some history of our heroes and pioneers of leaders, former leaders of Beaumont, Texas. Okay? See you guys. See you in
Awesome.
about 40 minutes.
Wow. He left us well, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. He did. So tonight, I'm glad that Tony brought back the round table. Trisha, you've been on the show a few times, and I'm glad to have you with me. So,
Oh, thanks for having
um,
me.
our first topic of the night, we do have local elections that's coming up, and this is part of our local news segment. But we do have local elections coming up, and we sort of kind of wanted to talk about this entire process. So, um, I guess like our headline would be, "We all should run for office."
Yes.
And there's a pun to it. So if you catch it, good. If not, then there's all kinds of questions that we're ready to answer. Um, so before we actually give a spin to everything, we do have some information about our local election, and we'll definitely be giving you this information continuously until after the election. So May 6th is the next election, 2023. Um, First day for candidates to file was the 18th of January. The last day for candidates to file is actually tomorrow, which is February 17th by 5 o'clock p.m. Um, the and you file that down at City Hall with the city clerk's office.
Yes.
Um, and there is a few candidates actually that's running for particular offices in our city. Patricia did mention earlier, excuse me, that there are three seats that are unopposed. That is Ward 1, Ward 2, and Ward 4.
Yep.
So, with that being said, let's see. We have incumbent Robin Mouton for mayor and candidate Roy West for mayor. Um, any comments, Tricia?
Um, Not yet.
I know, right?
We're in the wrong ward.
I
I just think that
will say,
nobody should be running unopposed. I think that more people need to be involved.
um, I think
It keeps people on their toes if there's a little bit of competition every
I
now and then.
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. But at the same time, I
But you don't
do,
want to
I do
overrun
know.
either.
Right. Yeah, that's what I was about to say too. But there are, I guess, like I really want people to know that yes, you and I or anybody that's eligible to run for public office in the city of Beaumont should run, especially if you figure that you are the better candidate for that particular position. Again, we have a mayor, you have two at large, you have your ward council. Uh, so that's an accumulative of 4 votes. So, with that being said, when you go to the poll on early voting days, and let's see, those days, early voting dates are April 24th to May 2nd. So you have those times to vote early. Um, and most of the times, those polling locations are open from 8 to 5. So you might want to govern yourself accordingly. Of course, early voting locations are different from polling locations on elections. Rogers Park, Jefferson County, John Paul Davis, Theodore Johns are some of the early voting locations. Election day locations, polling day or polling locations are Amelia BISD Administration Building, Ishman, OC Mike Taylor, Rogers Park, Roy Guest, Alice Keith, Charlton Pollard Elementary School, Lamar University Montaigne Center, Jefferson County Courthouse, Martin Luther King Middle School, John Paul Davis Community Center, Sterling Pruitt Activity Center, and the Theodore Jones Library. So all of those are your election day polling locations. Again, those do change between the days. Um, so there is at large. I did mention you have candidate. I'm sorry, incumbent AJ Turner, incumbent Randy Felshaw, um, candidate Bagita Hernandez, candidate Michael Cooper, candidate Terry Preston Roy, who is also a co-host of the Roundtable Talk. So, um, any questions or comments about that one, Trisha?
I don't have any question. I think that that's a lot of at-large people, but I think it's good. More people need to be involved. Um, no, so far that's it.
Awesome,
I
awesome.
lost my voice a little bit, so
A little bit.
a little bit. It's actually better than it was.
Oh, okay, okay, okay.
My
So you
husband's been
lost it and
enjoying
it's
it.
coming back. I bet. Mouth quiet, a silent house.
Not really, but yeah.
um. Okay, and for the other opposed seat is Ward 3. There is 3 candidates for Ward 3. Um, the incumbent Odwin Samuel uh, uh, is running candidate Carlton Sharp and candidate Gary Senegal. um, that's the 3 individuals that are running for Ward 3. Ward 3, if y'all don't know, is north end, south end, some portions of the avenues, anything on this side or on the east side of 4th Street,
It
anything.
includes downtown, right?
Yeah, that's
I
downtown
think that's an
included.
important thing to remember for Ward 3.
Right. Central Business District, downtown area is Ward 3. Anything on this side of Washington Boulevard, that's on the north side of Washington Boulevard, is Ward 3. All the way to you get to uh, what is it? Calder, Fort,
Yeah, I
what
think it's
Calder and
Calder.
4th Street meet.
Yeah.
It's on this side of that intersection, and
There
then
was
on
just
this
some
side of the
redistricting,
tracks.
so I might be a little off. Didn't it come to like to almost I-10 for Ward
Yeah,
3? But
uh,
might be moved.
I want to say Ward 3 in the Old Town area
Yeah.
is at the tracks. So, and then that's the original Old Town, and then the historical Oaks District Old Town. So yeah, and then again, like I said, that goes all the way to the north end to Plant Road,
Mhm.
and that's like majority of this side of the interstate and this side of the tracks, Hell Big Bigner area.
Mhm.
Yeah, so everything on the other side of the tracks is Ward 2,
Ward 2
Ward
starts at
1.
23rd Street.
Yeah. So yeah, everything on the other side of the tracks is Ward 3. So yeah.
And I point
Uh
out Ward 3 as being downtown district too, because we talk about doing a lot of improvements down there, a lot of new things coming in, the riverfront, the
yes.
555 main, just things that, we want to change and, you know,
I totally agree. That's definitely a seat that, is a very hot topic because of its ward.
yeah.
And I would champion residents and voters of this particular ward not to just question the individual's intentions on what they have for the downtown development because that directly affects Ward 3 residents.
Right. And
And
also
and I
look at
mean
what
that
they've
in
done
every facet.
or
Right.
not done. Like, look, what have they done already
Done
or
or
not
not
done?
done. Right,
Right.
right. And think about me being who I am. I do champion people also to think about who we would believe to have our best interests at heart, regardless to the puppeteering that we have in our local government or the shadow government
Hmm.
that we have. So be mindful of your advocate that we may or may not have in a candidate. And as of right now, all of them are candidates with the
Yeah.
exception of the 3 unopposed.
Even when they become elected officials, we have to remember that they are elected to represent the majority of us. We're not all going to agree, but they need to find the common ground of the majority.
Right.
We don't serve them, they serve us.
Yes.
They
And
speak for
that's
us.
absolutely. that brings us to why we all should run for office. And that, it's a, like I said, there is a pun to it. Um, because if you have an idea, if your group or your community have ideas, present those ideas to these candidates. Don't just receive their input and or perception about who you represent, or your area, the how that area is dictated or looked at, different things like that. Because I will say this, the more that we are away from the table, the more that we are distant from what most of us call politics. Um, those that know the game, they use your absence against you. So
Yes,
I'm
they
I'm not gonna ask you to go register to vote. I'm gonna say go vote.
they don't know what to speak if we don't tell them.
Correct.
So
Correct.
we have to be loud because sometimes they need to hear us.
Exactly.
Even if you can't run, you should find a way to become involved so your voice is heard. And you should always
Exactly.
vote.
Exactly. Exactly. I totally agree. I totally agree. Um, Next, you said, Trisha, you said something about, it being a lot of candidates.
When
Can
there's a
you?
lot of candidates running for one seat, you're splitting
Mhm.
the vote. That's like I don't know how to explain it other than that.
I mean, and don't get me wrong, I hear that. I mean, as a past candidate, I hear that, you split the vote this way, you split the vote that way, or whatnot. But for me, as a numbers person, I always notice that they give us the same number of alleged, voted individuals. It's always between 16 to 19%.
I
And
think another
that's,
factor is that with the at-large seat, you can take care of the entire city. You're not sitting with one ward. Whereas,
I
with the
mean,
one
like,
ward, you
and
have your
I guess that's the stigma that most people follow, or like that, the I don't know, ritual that they do. It's like I'll be on this side of the city, or you handle this section of the
they should
city, and
all
I'll
work
handle.
together.
I totally agree, especially if you are an at-large representative, you should represent the entire city
And that's the thing.
and do
These
some
people running
things
for at large
collectively.
want to be able to help everybody equally, but we
Mm,
need to have people who are working on individual areas too.
Yeah. So like I guess like one of the conversations that we had about the election is um you know what are some of the reforms we would like to see, because we don't hear really too much here about the reforms, especially in the administration. I mean, like, yes, we have a new city manager, yes, um, our mayor, and a selected few of individuals that's on council currently have made some shaky, some ground shaking moves,
Yes,
especially in the old history and the old practices of the city of Beaumont. But I like,
but let's break it
um,
down to like we have a new mayor, but she's not newly seated. And I'm not saying anything bad about her at all.
mhm,
I'm
mhm.
just saying there
Just
are
the round
certain
table. If
they've been
anybody get
sitting.
offended, it's their business.
Okay,
But go
so
ahead.
like with the sit downtown, we want all this change in downtown. We've had the same ward council member over that ward for how many years?
Hmm.
And it's stayed the same no matter what else has gone on.
Hmm.
So maybe it's time to accept change and bring change in. I don't know.
Right. So
I'm
I'm a
just
con that.
speaking generally.
Yeah. So I'm a con that. Okay. So like the change that I'd say residents that live on the east side of Interstate 10 or east side of 6996. Most of those residents have complained about issues long before some of these individuals were seated, and with the exception of the council for Ward 3. um, but with that even being said, you also still have to look at the administration of that
Mhm.
particular time. You have to look at the support that that ward council did and or did not have while they were on council. You
I
also have to
personally
look at
believe that he brings a
the
lot of wisdom. He brings a lot of experience,
Mhm.
but I've also heard him speak of change like he doesn't like it too much. So
I've heard that from our community as well.
you have to look at the things that he's done as well as the things he says he's going to do
I totally agree.
and
I
how his
totally
follow
agree.
through is because he's been there long enough. We can see the follow through.
Right, right. So like again, like I like for me, it's not politics, it's policy.
Yeah.
It's what what you enforce, what you implement that governs me immediately, especially in my city government. Again, they could pass an ordinance, and that ordinance affects me the moment that they vote yes for it. So you know what I'm saying,
Yeah.
and that's the moment that it's voted and or implemented into our city ordinance. So I mean, it's extremely important that not only we know what these particular offices, like the mayor, she's an administrator, the at large or should be advocates, and your ward council should be direct, advocates to
Yep.
you, and that's pretty much this government. Yeah, we do have a city manager. Yeah, he administers the downline for daily operations in the city. But again,
He
if
doesn't
you're
pass the
not
ordinances.
yeah, if you're not at the table giving guidance to those that are elected, that gives him mandate to do things, then again those things aren't going to come to you. And that's again, like I said, one of the issues that or one of the options we really have to take to the ballot booth, or before we get to the ballot booth of making our decisions in these local elections. If this incumbent had the opportunity, did they, like you say, Tricia, did they use this opportunity at the best of their ability, or did they just sit on their ass and not do nothing for the people, nothing for the growth, nothing for the economy, nothing for the health, nothing for public safety. I
Right.
mean, if there is nothing that we can, see that this individual either brought to council and other members of council voted it down, or it didn't even make it to council because you couldn't get a second, or however the case may be, why some issues that we see as residents of Ward 3 and I'm gonna say it again. It's not just our ward council. We have two at-large council
Yep.
members, and
That are
those
to back up the
two
ward
at-large
council members.
exactly.
Yep.
Those two ward council members. If you're reaching out to your ward council, you damn sure should be reaching out to the at-large councils as well.
Yes. Everybody that you have at your disposal, you should go to. Yes. Because they all
Correct.
have to work together to make things happen. They can't just
Correct.
do it on their own.
Correct.
I mean,
Correct.
there's how many of us and how many of them, they need to help each other.
Yeah, and I mean, like even when I was on the campaign trail, I heard a lot of times, well, I'm only voting for this one at large. Well, you left a vote on the table.
Well,
You left
that's,
a candidate on the table, or not on the table at
they're
all.
both your at large. You
Yes,
care
they
about
are
both
both
of
your
them.
so on Knowledge is Power podcast live, we will definitely encourage that you exercise your two at-large votes.
Right.
Because again,
You should see
that's
both of
another
them.
reason why
They
I
should both.
believe that at large seat is heavily populated, because there are two individuals, and they're not telling you that you have the option of two individuals in that at large race.
Mm.
Again, if you don't if most of the times, if we're not putting ourselves in position to be educated on power, nobody's going to share that power with you.
Let me
You
just
know what
lay
I'm
this
saying?
out.
And
We've
it's free.
had
So
two at large this entire time, the past 2 years. We've had
mhm,
Randy and we've had
mhm,
AJ.
mhm,
Everybody knows they can go to AJ. He shows his face everywhere.
mhm,
If he tries, even if he doesn't get it done, he tries.
mhm.
I don't see Randy outside of the council meetings.
And I'm glad you said that,
That
because
matters.
there are a lot of candidates on this list that that I've mentioned, um, you know, that we don't see, and in our community, and if they are, they're not in our community. They're around a particular crowd. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Or a clique, or a group of individuals.
Yeah, they vote for their
So
friends.
yeah, so like one of my questions, and this is again my personal questions to every candidate is, why are you running? What is your purpose for running? And I don't want to, I mean, like, not bashing anyone
Nope.
or any candidate, but I don't want to hear anything about you telling me that God, um you know you're
I just,
I
we
don't want
should
to hear
all
that.
run. We should all run. You're absolutely right. But we all need to recognize that there are certain places that we each belong. And
Correct. And that's why we should all run.
if you've got something like it's really big outside of council, then maybe you should focus on that and let somebody who has more time focus on something else. You know what I mean? Like, there needs to be more
Speak on
face
it,
time.
Trisha, man. It's the
I
round
don't want to
table.
be, well, why do I not want to be rude? Okay, so you have let me say this. I'm not saying anything bad about him, but you have a congregation to take care of. Let somebody else take care of the rest of us. Like, there's not enough time to focus on the city because a congregation is important. We deserve more time. And I have never seen him outside of a council. I can't think of even an event I've heard him being at. I could be wrong, but I think I pay pretty close attention. Like, what has he voted for, or what hasn't he voted? What did he do that made change?
Yeah,
And,
I
and
and
what
I
do you
see that.
plan on doing? I want specifics. I want one specific thing you're gonna do, or you plan to be. You're determined to do.
Yeah, and like I said, I see that, with other candidates,
Everybody.
and
I'm not
and,
just
and this
picking
is
on
I,
the
I
one.
do want to I do want to say this also. Don't allow the candidate and or incumbent fool you in believing that they're gonna always, always, always be there, because that once they get that office,
Yeah,
once they get that seat, that accessibility, that much is not, they can't juggle that. And I'm not going to call anybody a liar. I'm just telling you the truth, the honesty. The workload itself does not allow you to be as um
active.
yeah, as active as you possibly could be.
When you're running,
um
you have big plans, but when you actually
yeah,
get there, it's a whole different thing you have to learn to adjust
right,
to.
right.
Some people can, some people can't. That's why I say everybody should run, but sometimes it's only certain people who can actually do it.
Yep. And again, if you're not on the ticket, if you're not an actual candidate, you still have a responsibility to govern your city and
Right.
yourself.
And if you've
So
been seated and you haven't had the time or you've struggled to find time, it is time to let somebody who can do it
yeah,
because
I
it
totally agree.
matters.
I totally
You
agree.
can love your city and not be in that seat. In fact, it actually shows a lot of love to know that you're just not the fit.
Yeah. So that's one of the some of the few things we definitely wanted to talk about. Um, Trisha, was especially when it comes to this election, was like, we all should run, and we should
So
all have a
important.
plan, of taking our city to the next level. Our next topic or segment is it's called,
Uh,
wait, what?
he said he was here. I
And
didn't know.
welcome to our other co-host, Perry Busby, and I'm glad you popped in right on time.
Hi,
Cause
Perry.
Yeah, man, I was enjoying the conversation. Hi,
I was
Trish.
trying to play nice, but I figured the first show,
I was
watch
about
it.
to say, so being that our first segment was local news, we talked about we all should run for office, and have, that personal interaction and engagement with our local government. So if you wanted to take a stab at it, or drop some knowledge right fast, go ahead, and then we'll move on to the next segment. Go ahead, Perry.
Um, First of all, always
We,
glad to be with my people in Beaumont. Just because I'm not in Beaumont doesn't think I don't think I am not concerned.
I got a ward you can run
Uh,
for.
don't think I'm not concerned, but I don't know if what I'm about to say you can
It's
see
the
as
round table.
encouraging,
Yeah.
but I do see it as encouraging, and that is this the one the thing that I hear you and Trish wrestling with, and what the citizens of Beaumont are wrestling with, sounds like the same refrain I hear from people who are close to the politics of Houston, where I've lived for 22 years and was heavily vested into the political infrastructure there. And so we've seen Houston sort of make some adjustments, but if you ask some people, they still are asking, well, we're not arguing about the aesthetic changes we're seeing. We're concerned about the return on investment for these aesthetic changes that we've got to pay for. The same thing is happening here in well, I won't say here in Broward, but in Broward, as they are now dealing with the school board and the whole transition of school board that was heavily Democrat and heavily uh, uh, at one time the Broward School Board had has 9 members. They were all 9 white women and a white superintendent. Not to bash them being white women or white or just women. Uh, I think all of one thing is not healthy. Whether that would
Right.
have been 9 black people, surely nine Democrats. Again, we can look at any
Yeah.
configuration of this data set,
Mhm.
and if it's all the same, you're not going to get a robust return on the thinking there,
I
because
mean,
all they're doing is reinforcing what they've already agreed to.
well, the population isn't all white women, right? Democratic
Right.
white women. Well, then how is everybody being represented? Like,
Right.
gotta have
You
everybody
know,
in there.
but then the governor came in. The governor came in with a hatchet,
Oh,
and what black folk were decrying as wrong, the governor demolished. And to some degree, white people, the black Democrats in Broward said, all right. And this was like 5 months ago. And so now the return on investment now is this hellacious fight about African American history and LGBTQ students in our community. And so again, if you were played for the static changes, what again is the return on that investment? And so we see the same things. I found out something interesting. While the argument was focused on the AP African American curricula being rejected,
Mm-hmm.
the real big issue is there are only 11 counties
Mm-hmm.
out of the 67 counties here in Florida that offer African American history at all.
how is that
Not
possible?
AP. Only 11 counties.
11.
And then not every school in those 11
I
counties.
was
And
about
so
to.
when
I
you
was about to
begin
say,
to
and not
drill
every
down,
school did it.
How is that possible? If they all
Yeah.
had all the schools should
But
offer that.
again, like I said,
Oh my
and
God.
like the segment and the topic of the segment, we all should run. And these are
yeah,
the issues when we are not at the table, when we are not engaged in our local government, in our school district, in our county government. These are the things that slide by, or I'm not gonna even say slide by. They go through proper protocol, but being that you're not there at the table to give your on the ground feedback, they use what they have and they mow over you, or the elders of your community or the young folks of your community, and then next thing you know, you look back 2 years from then, you have a 10-year gap, you know what I'm saying, that you've been placed in, um, intentionally but unintentional, you know what I'm saying?
Right. Right.
Again, like it happens because of your absence from the table altogether.
Mm-hmm.
So I would, again, I definitely encourage people to, not just receive, um, not just receive information or receive a plan from your candidates. Uh, Give them a plan. And if
Yes.
there's a plan that they can't, if your plan is something that they cannot adopt and adjust their platform to, then 9 times out of 10, that's not the candidate for you. And if
No,
they
or the
tell you,
candidate that
oh yeah, I
represents
can,
you.
right. And if they tell you I can, tell them how, ask them how can, and show you how they will appropriate these changes, your plans, into their platform.
Right.
hmm
Right.
hmm And
Because
if
if
they
I
can't
can be right,
deliver, if they
yeah,
can't deliver, there's a process. And I keep telling people this: you don't have to wait 2 years for somebody to come back and sit down or get them out of the seat. There's a recall process. You just gotta wait.
Yes. But
yeah,
yeah, well, that's
Again,
the whole
like I say,
problem.
it's
That
the
recall
process.
process is not things. Other things need to be changed too. I think we need term limits here in Beaumont. I think our recall process needs to be reevaluated because it's very difficult. If we take somebody out, we're not the ones who seat the next person. The rest of council does. Some of us might not have faith that that's a good idea, so we just don't
well,
do it.
well, I think and to your point about we should all run. Um, More than anything, I think we should all be strategic. I there's no way we can look at the construct of city council and handpick individuals to sit in a chair when there's no cohesive thought in
Yeah,
Yeah,
place.
yeah.
they have to like
And
blend
not
in as
only
they get along
right, and not only around that dais,
all the time.
but if that dais cannot extend that same thought and leadership to the school board, to the county commission,
Yep.
to state reps, to state senator, then
You
we
got a
don't
gap
have a
in, yeah, you
we
got a
don't
gap
have
in
a play.
leadership.
We just got some pawns.
Yeah,
I got my rook here, and I got
yeah,
no.
yeah.
You don't even have a chess
Well, you
Match.
got the
strategy.
same
You don't
people,
have a package all together.
Yeah,
You got some pieces.
the
pieces.
same people
You
who
got a
were
chess
part of
board with checker
destroying you,
pieces.
trying to rebuild you. The
Yeah,
people who broke you
Yeah,
can't fix you. That's you got to change it up a little bit. Find some new people.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So
I
let's
mean,
let's
and
hop
at
on
the
this.
same time, we can't depend on um we let me just put it this way. If I win Beaumont and had to, you know, decide on this makeup,
Hmm.
um, I don't know all the candidates. I know a great many of them, including those who currently hold seats. Uh, I think they're all people of goodwill, people of good intent, people who aspire to hold true to, you know, some of their promises. I can't say that for all that are there, but I say that
Yeah,
for a few who I
Oh
yeah.
know
yeah, I think they're
and
all
some
trying to
who are
hold their
running.
promises. Yeah, just who they
Yeah,
promise
yeah.
things to might be a little different than the next. But yeah,
Here's my problem.
How many of them
I'm
are
not
saved
convinced.
though?
My problem is I'm not convinced that they know the rules of engagement. They just like to be engaged.
yes. And also, how long are they going to be engaged before somebody else gets to try? Like, if somebody hasn't done something worth notable, like in a
I'm
certain
gonna
amount
tell
of
you.
time, move on.
I'm gonna tell y'all one more time.
Because there's ulterior motives if you've
And
done nothing.
I think I got my amen corner on the line now. But there is no way, no way, shape, form, and or fashion that we can verify who and how these elections turn out. And I say that because I just need people to really pay attention to the percentage of voter turnout that's reported in Jefferson County elections, even if it's in on the city side. Um, Pay attention to the number that's reported of the turnout, because that number can be easily manipulated. Again, with you not at the table.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just really want people to pay attention to, their what's going on in their local government.
I
Last
think
comment, everybody.
a lot of people are really just don't want anything to do with voting recently. And I'm not taking sides, but I'm saying there's been a lot of bullcrap that's gone on with recent elections, drama, that kind of thing. Nobody wants to be a part of that. They don't think that their voice counts or that their vote matters, and that's not true. It does.
Yeah.
You have to speak up or you won't be heard.
That's the
I think
stigma they
voting.
drive on us.
I think like African American history, Black history. Uh, we've also done a poor job of educating ourselves about voting, and I mean, because when you start talking about, well, we need to get more engaged, you're gonna get the same 5 cards. We got to get out the vote drive. We got to do this. We got
Yeah,
to
yeah,
have fish dinners, boudin, and give away shrimp, and all. It ends up being the same thing, and
Yeah.
so what was crawfish balls now was chicken dinners and fish dinners way back in the day. Nothing's changed. We've got to approach elections in the true form that they are.
yeah.
Elections are not one dimensional. It's just not about showing up at the poll.
Right. That part.
Yep.
We got
Especially that part.
we've got an overabundance of technology that runs our elections, and a few skilled people involved in the process. What we have is an overabundance of people who know Jefferson County and Beaumont politics, but they know very little about the outcome of a voting. One of the good things and bad things about voting in Beaumont, I recognize, was a good thing is that it allows tertiary voting. You can go anywhere to vote.
Yeah.
It removes the obstacle of being wedded to one place.
So we
That's a good
think.
thing.
So we think.
Right.
But here in
Right.
the state of Texas, if you have a decreased population in your polling location, again, like I named the different types of polling locations here, there's early voting locations, and then there is polling locations. These are like locations that are designated to particular precincts. And if your attendance to that polling location isn't sufficient for the county and the state to keep it open, guess what
Yeah.
Yep.
For
happens? You
budgetary
lose that.
reasons, it gets cut.
Yeah,
Right.
you
Right.
lose that polling location. So
Right.
yes, I do encourage people to participate in the local early elections, but I do tell people to keep in mind that if you participate outside of your precincts, um, you have risk of losing your
Yeah.
particular precinct polling location
Yeah.
because of lack of attendance.
Right. And
So
secondarily to that, Chris, is that we have all grown accustomed to looking at election results from a sum total. We've totally blinded people to the aggregate counts, which is at your precinct, regardless of where you vote, they have to tabulate votes by precincts. Even if they got rid of your precinct, that precinct exists. It by elections, statutory rules, the
Correct.
precinct exists.
Correct.
What we don't see, what we fail to pay attention to, is the aggregate totals within those precincts. And my argument has always been, I believe all elections are local. Well, you can't get any more local than your precinct.
Correct.
And if you don't know the voice, the tone, the ideology that's coming out of your precinct,
You disconnected.
then the rest is bullshit.
Yeah.
And so we have to begin to reframe our approach around elections along that old way that went I remember Beaumont in the 60s and early 70s. Don't remember any poll tax. I'm not going to lie about that. But I do know that elections in the 60s and the 70s, man, precinct captains knew the vote before it was even tapped, because they had a handle on their community.
Correct.
They knew what their people wanted. The communities, yeah.
Right. And no candidate would dare come into these communities
Right.
and say, "This is my plan." Those candidates would come into the community and articulate how their platform it corrects some of the things that has already been brought to them through plan by some of the pastors, some of the businesses, some of the community leaders. But again, we're living in a society now where most people do things just for recognition and limelight and acknowledgement or acquisitions.
Right.
And that acquisition come with a pretty penny too.
Yeah. But Republicans use this to their advantage. If you remember Ron Paul in the 2008 election, I think, or maybe 2012, Ron Paul was in. Ron Paul discovered this. And I think it's something you talk about, we should all run. I think some of the easiest races we can build, because elections have this hierarchy, and precinct captains are essential to their process. You want to start changing elections? Change precinct captains.
Or become one.
Right, become one. And those are elected positions.
Yes.
They're winnable. You ask people about how many votes it takes to win a precinct captain, you could probably get a precinct captain chair with less than 100 votes. Those are easy wins because it changes the structure.
Yes.
Because now those politicians have to approach you in a much different fashion.
Correct.
Because you are in some ways the gatekeeper of that community.
Correct.
So let's begin to change those. I mean, we talk about precincts and people not voting. I imagine that if you look at a good majority of the precinct captains, except for LaDonna Sherwood and maybe a few others, all of them are over 55. And I'm not against any. I'm not saying that as disparaging, because I'm over 55.
Yeah.
But folk over 55
can't relate with everybody.
They're not.
And everybody not gonna relate with them.
They also don't like change quite so much.
Right. So begin to change this. Change this from the bottom.
I have to play devil's advocate on that, because you have to think, especially older or more mature people of color. You have to understand that these people are, downtrodden from trauma of going, and this is, some people that are older than Perry's age that have suffered poll taxes,
Right.
or polling intimidation, where you have bottles or whatever thrown at your polling location, or your polling location be wiped out, or you don't find a viable candidate in like at least 4 or 5 years, and then next thing you know, the candidate that you like is up there, and you find out that you've been purged from the voter roll.
Hmm.
You know, and it's these things that we as advocates have to think about, that are um induced into our communities, induced to that voting base. Just like Perry mentioned about the polling, your precinct chairs. That's an elected position, but a lot of people, regardless to political affiliation, a lot of people don't know what precinct they belong to, don't know if there's a precinct chair, don't know how to get one, can't get in touch with their party chair, if they're that's if they know which party they feel and or
Right,
align with, you know what I'm
right,
saying? And
right.
you don't see many of these party chair members out into these precincts trying to encourage a chairperson.
Yeah,
And that's one of the gaps. Again, like I said, we should all run.
yeah,
We got ample space for representatives and individuals that hear the need of the people and are ready to do something about it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, and that's the result of Citizens United decision. A lot of people tend to think that an overabundance of cash guarantees victory.
That's not true.
No.
That is not true. Um, and so when we began to look at some of these small races, I mean, I don't know if are there mud districts there, the utility.
Maybe
There is
is a place that
one
we're
mud
not sure.
district here,
Is it
and
actually
I was
active
Yeah,
about to
yet?
say we you remember we had talked about it
Yeah,
on
we don't know what
our
yeah,
the.
podcast, but as far as like the extent of it, we don't know.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
We
I
don't know.
mean, when you begin to look at some of these small municipal
Utility
energy
districts, yeah,
commissions and all of
yeah,
these,
yeah,
we never run for that.
right.
we don't really always know when
Those
that's
those
available.
those have proven to be a springboard for many Republicans because
Mhm,
they used it diligently.
mhm.
Because the amount of money going through your utility districts, you'd be amazed. And so again, that's what I'm saying. We got candidates that somehow feel like, well, I got to have a big shot. I got to have a bigger seat. And I'm like, you don't
And then you got
understand.
some
You don't
people that
understand, you don't
feel like
understand the
they don't have a
politics.
seat at all. I mean, because like off the list that I read of candidates, I mean, like yeah, I'll probably do that on either on the next review or the next first Thursday. Um, I just don't agree with all of the candidates that are on this list.
Yeah,
Um, and one of the areas that I don't agree in is, where were you 2 years, 4 years, 6 years, 8 years, 10 years, 12 years? Where were you already ago? And
Yes.
that's one of the things that aggravates the hell out of me, is some of these candidates have not, and incumbents have not showed their face in the community almost the entire time that they
Yep.
were in office or and seeking office, but now here it
They were
is,
here when they
you
were seeking
ready.
office and then
Yeah,
disappeared, and now they're here again.
yeah,
Like, I
you
haven't heard
back
nothing from
again. Like,
you.
where were you? And like I mean, like, where were you, like,
What
throughout
did
this
you do?
entire time? I
Is it
mean,
too
and
much to ask for? Like, can we have a list of each of your qualifications? Like, what did you do? Can
well,
I see a
according to
list?
the city's website, you can go to the city of Beaumont's website. There is the voting information on that website. Every candidate has their application accessible where you can
It's
review
just
it.
their personal
So
information.
Yeah.
I was
There's
about to
nothing in
say, and
there
that's
like that.
personal information. So again, what you would have to do, and I would encourage you do, is you find out about these particular candidates
Yeah.
yourself. You
Yeah.
meet them, you bring them a plan, and
Yeah.
it goes from there.
Well,
You
and here's the thing,
are the
though.
biggest advocate for the individuals that you live around, whether you have a precinct chair to help your people to get to the poll or not.
Well, pay attention to what here. I have a group, and there's several of those people that you named off are people that are participants in that group. So if I go in my group and I say, "Can I get a list from each person here who wants to be a candidate? What have you accomplished in the past 2 years, whether you were seated
Oh,
or
you
not?"
gotta. To me,
And nobody
you have to
comments.
go further than 2 years. You got to go further than 2 years
I'm
if
just
you,
starting at basics.
and that's just for my expectations.
I've
Yeah.
done this
Again,
twice.
I
I
don't
would.
want you to be just running just because you have an issue with the individual that's in there,
Right.
or an issue with the individual's decisions that they are collectively making in there. I want you to actually have a plan of how you're going to resolve not your plan, my issues.
Even if you don't
Right.
have a plan, I want to know that you have an ability to try. I want
Yeah,
to be able to hope that it's going to work.
yeah. And I'm not just saying be accessible where I could call your phone and we sit on the phone for however long and we talk about what's going on at council, or we talk about what's going on with your candidacy. But I want to know what it is again. Like again, what is the reason I should vote for you?
Right. And I've asked like twice, I put up posts asking for,
Right.
just give me a couple of things, shoot some
But
things at me. Nothing.
Trisha,
If
you a
you
shit
can't
starter.
find the
You were
time,
the only white girl
it's a
on this.
general question, though. It shouldn't be that difficult. If you
I
can't
mean,
find
like,
the time to give
true
me
that.
one answer,
But
then
you
how
were
are you
the
going to have the
only
time to
white
represent
girl
me?
on the Knowledge is Power podcast.
Because
They
I'm the
figure
loudest.
you, yeah, I was about to say, they figure you, they take you to be a trouble starter, just like Perry Busby,
I
just
leave
like Christopher
no doubt
Jones.
about it. My
And some,
background says
and
proud Beaumont troublemaker.
they even say the same thing about Terry Roy, that he's a troublemaker, because a lot of us speak out about what we know
We
the
need
city
trouble.
ordinance says, what the state government says, what the EPA says, and these government agencies or entities govern our city as well. So,
Yeah.
I mean, we need
Yeah.
trouble because what we got now is not working.
Well, and I have a pointed question to ask, and is there a leader on city council? Because I believe
all right. So
not
to
everyone on city council has to be a leader.
I think that
so
we have a
so
bunch of
on,
people who need to back each other up and become
let
a leader altogether.
let me
And
answer
that's not
your
going to
question,
happen.
Perry. Let me answer your question. On to segment 3. The shit.
You don't want my opinion, huh?
What?
He's silencing the white
Oh
girl.
man. No, I do believe that there are some
Don't
individuals
get
that
her
have
going.
leadership potential.
Right.
Now, whether or not they are using it at the best of their ability or the best of our accessibility, I don't
Right.
agree.
I feel
But
like if there was a
again,
leader, they
just
would have taken the
because
lead.
no, that's not always the case.
Somebody's got to do it.
I just showed you the scenario where you have a 30 something year old councilman that sat in a predominantly white council for almost half of his career.
Yes,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's not going to stop me from taking charge on my
Yes, it
own.
will. It will.
Yeah.
Well,
You
I
have to
don't know.
understand. You have to, Trisha. You have had to been in city council some years back,
I
when
guess
long before Mike Getz got there,
what I
when
mean.
some of the things that would have mowed individuals over in Ward 3,
Oh, no, I know.
Aldwin, I know Aldwin was a buffer. Now, don't get me wrong. Again, this was during a time where you had a predominantly white council.
I
You
don't have
had,
anything bad to say about Audubon. Nothing. I don't have anything positive or bad. I have perspectives. Like if I
well,
want change, maybe it's time for change. But I'm not saying anything
I
bad about
totally
him in
agree.
particular.
I
Right.
totally agree. But then
I
again,
just
like I said, I at least have to throw my pro and con in there, because again, as a politician, I see things, and sometimes when I see things, I don't say much, because those are my observations, but that is something that we
Right.
as a collective body have to take into consideration. Even when we had the first African American president, it's not like he had the complete support across the entire Congress and Senate to get things done. So when we say, oh, he didn't do anything, we got to then think back to who we had elected as support to
Right.
what
Right.
funneled down to the nation.
When he
So
was screaming and yelling, who was screaming and
Right.
yelling with him? And
Yeah.
that's my point.
yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
we need somebody to go in there who is going to scream and yell loud enough where this doesn't have to be a problem anymore.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
Well,
and I totally agree. Now let's
I'm
take
not saying
now
that it
let's
can't be
take
done by who's there. I'm just saying, like,
right,
we need,
right.
like, shake it up a little. Let's go in there and do
no.
something to make things
Yeah,
move.
do something
Right.
productive.
Right.
Don't just fuss and fight and still have no resolve. You know what I'm
But
saying?
right. But
Bitching
going
in
to
Oregon
your
is nothing
leadership
but bitching in
question,
Oregon.
right? But to your leadership question, it does. Just give me a list of what you said you had a leadership role in producing.
I didn't even ask for a list. I wanted a bullet point.
No, I mean,
Oh
however
wow.
you want, whatever you think the positive points of your leadership are,
Yeah.
You
then,
And
wouldn't
nobody
believe,
answered.
honestly,
then let me see
nobody.
because here's my thing.
But nobody ever answers me anyway. So
No,
I
no,
might be me.
Like
no.
I like
And
I
I'm saying
said.
this, and I'm saying this to any potential candidate. If you want to get people to understand your leadership, then give them, for lack of a better word, give them a resume of your leadership.
Yeah,
Exactly. I think we
yeah.
should demand a resume.
Be pissed off with me and
Right,
say he
right.
always bragging about the shit that he done, but I know folk ain't gonna give me credit for anything. So let me just
Right.
tell it
Let me tell
myself.
you, let me tell you myself.
Now, if
Absolutely.
you're gonna give me a list, then I have to make, now I'm left to the whim of how you consider the integrity of what I've offered as proof of my leadership.
Yeah, yeah.
For me, at this juncture in Beaumont, for anyone to seek a leadership position and to rehash systemic infrastructural problems without looking to the future, and I don't mean a goddamn waterfront park, as
Oh,
futuristic.
Man,
there shouldn't even be on the
But
table right now.
man.
if the limits of your leadership can only get to a water park, I appreciate you. I got to go a little further.
There's a
Yeah,
different spot for you.
yeah.
I got to go a little further. Because when I look at the history of leadership, Dr. King didn't have the majority with him. He set forth a vision, and we all want to call it a dream, and we all want to say he set something forth that people said, "Ooh, I can even begin to see that." What leader in Beaumont is saying something that you can go, "Ooh, even I can see
Right.
that."
Yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Exactly. I'm
And
just
I
looking
don't
for
mean
that one.
state council, I mean your leadership,
Right, right, right,
your preachers,
right, right.
your city
Because I was about to
council,
say
your
you have to look
county. I mean,
deep
it
when you
goes
talk
up
about
and down.
leadership,
Right.
right? Your business owners in your community,
Yeah.
whether they're, you know what I'm saying, whether it's a locally owned business or a national brand, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying. You have more and I tell this to everyday people. We have more power than we give ourselves credit for, especially here in the city of Beaumont, because you have um, a large populace of black and brown people, and you have a large spending amongst black people, and that's power to, businesses, that's power to institutions, that's power to governments. But what they're not going to tell you is how to place these positions or puzzles in places of power. They're not going to tell you cultivate, your precinct chair like Perry did. They're not going to tell you to cultivate your justice of the peace. They're not going to tell you to cultivate, these individuals that you one have to elect, and if you not, somebody else will, and they're going to put somebody in a position over you that you're not going to be able to, what I'm saying, crawl out from under. So
Yep.
I mean, like it is just as important. And I know some of us, stray away from politics. Yeah, but what we have to understand is that politics is in our everyday life. The moment you flick on them lights, that's politics. The
Yep.
moment you get in that car, that's politics. The moment you go to the gas station, that's politics. The moment you clock in at work, that's politics. The moment you drop your child off to school, that's politics. If he ride the bus, that's politics. If he get dropped off at all of those things are politics. And when we say, "Oh, I don't do that. I don't deal with politics," there are people that look like you and I. There are people that may look like Trisha, but their whole point and purpose is, yes, they're not at the table. So hey, this is the plan you have to accept because
Right.
I am the majority in the room.
Right.
Regardless to what the populace of the city may be, I'm the majority in the room. Take the vote.
Yep.
And they run the vote long before you could even get the invite.
Right.
So like I tell people, make sure if there's a table, you're there. If there's not a chair, sit on it. Sit on
Right.
the table. Just be in the
Yeah.
midst. Because if
I
not, they're gonna mow you over.
I
Just like
hated
they
But
politics.
did,
but but
just
here's
like
the
they did with
oxymoron of
individuals
that though, Chris.
from the 80s, 90s. Yeah.
But here's the oxymoron of that. Everything you said is true about politics being involved. I would go back to the moment you exit your mother's womb and cry.
You are stamped with politics.
Politics is driving your life. Politics says how long you get to stay at the hospital, how much that care is. And when you leave the hospital, you go home to your mama's house. And they got their politics too. You go to school, they got their politics. You go to church, you got their politics.
Correct.
And then all of a sudden I get 18, you tell me I get to make a choice? What? Wait,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've been telling me
This whole
politics has
time
been
I had
doing
to
this,
follow
all of this.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
now I get to make a choice about
Yeah.
this? Man, that's
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 dope,
hard to
man.
comprehend for anybody.
Yeah, especially for not having the responsibility of doing it or having, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yeah, man. Yeah.
yeah. So these are the things that we got to begin to extract and detach ourselves away from this. I'm going back. I bought a copy of The Miseducation of the Negro.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I read it a long time ago. I don't have a copy. But I think that's something every person should have
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
on their bookshelf.
Yeah, in the library, right.
And in Dr. Woodson's case, he said, yeah, it's about the Negro, but if we look at the interconnectivity, this is the miseducation of white people more than
It's about
it is the
everybody.
miseducation of
I was
Negroes.
going to say everybody should have the book because it all matters and we should all know so we can live
Yeah.
cohesively. And
Correct.
yes, absolutely.
And another book, being that you mentioned it, Perry, another book I would definitely encourage people to become engaged with, which helps us understand, how we should play in politics, is Uncle Tom's Cabin. And when you
Yeah.
read that, you will definitely have a new word for
For Uncle Tom.
shiftless Sambos. I almost
Mhm.
called them something else, but shiftless Sambos. You'll
Yeah.
definitely have a new word for those shiftless Sambos because you'll find a new respect for who Uncle Tom or the
Right.
man characterized
Yeah.
behind Uncle Tom.
Yep.
Yeah.
You might even learn how to quit misusing his story.
Well,
That,
And
I mean,
again,
I'm just
but
saying,
again, that
like,
was white people. That was white people using ingenuity.
but here we also have to
right,
remember.
right,
I
right.
always
And
go
we
back to
all we did
this.
was catch
But we
on
have to
to it.
remember that
We caught on to it and
there are white
carried it
people
through.
who have believed their entire life this story
Yeah,
because that's what they were told, and then they find out it's not the truth.
yeah, yeah.
So
But to
go find
paraphrase,
out the truth.
I mean, and even in that, I mean, like if a white person is calling a rebellion Negro an Uncle Tom, then that's befitting,
mhm,
right?
It's that
Because
it's don't call them
so
anything like that.
so if
The
you
point is
so
that like just go learn the actual
but
history. Don't get
that,
stuck in the fact you were lied to. And I'm talking to white
right,
people.
right. But again, I'm gonna tell you, if a slave driving or a superior thinking white person is calling a rebellious Negro an Uncle Tom, especially a rebellious Negro to white standard at that particular time, that
mhm,
Uncle Tom was actually the good dude,
yeah,
the one that they didn't really want Negroes to be. So
Yeah,
they
no,
would whip
yeah,
these Negroes and tell these Negroes, oh, you and Uncle Tom because you doing something contrary to
yeah,
what status quo says.
yeah,
And that's the same sentiment that bowed down or balled down into, the plagued
yeah,
individuals or
yeah.
the
right,
trauma of black individuals.
yeah. Well,
That's
and to just bring this home a little further, you've never seen Uncle Tom's Diner, right? I've seen the
seen.
Sambos. They used to have plenty of Sambos, and Sambos turned into dentists. so,
Tell
so
you,
that
I'm
lets
trying
you
to
know
tell
where
you.
white folks saw the benefit of
In
black folk. Yeah,
Sambo.
yeah,
Yeah, they
yeah,
saw the
yeah.
benefit of Sambo. They knew what they had in Sambo.
Sambo,
They knew what they could not touch in an Uncle Tom, though.
right? You don't see white
Yeah.
people promote no Uncle Tom cabin.
I don't think
Uncle Tom cabin construction
that's
kit.
because they know they don't know what the hell they're talking about right now.
All them wood cabins, they never called one an Uncle Tom cabin.
Man,
But they
man,
fed
man.
plenty
That's
Negroes at Sambos.
Yeah, yeah. So let's see. I was next segment is called
what
Wait.
you drinking, Perry.
What? This is our next segment, and this is again this is what it's called. Wait. What?
Wait,
And
that's the
you
segment. I
have to
get it
have,
now.
yeah, you have to have that funky face with it, okay? So
I
it's
actually was waiting for what was coming next. Like,
wait, what? Okay, so the wait what topic of the day is the shit is running over. The shit
everywhere.
is running over.
We're swimming in
Actually,
it.
so with that being our topic for
Lord.
wait what segment, um Trisha,
Yeah, I knew it.
had to endure you had to endure some troubling things as a
Uh,
resident here in the city of
I'm
Beaumont,
still
and
enduring them.
many others are having to endure these atrocious happenings.
Mine are a little bit
And
different than everybody else's, but yes, I'm still enduring them every day.
yeah, and the reason I'm picking on you, Trisha.
I'm not being picked on. Let me speak about this stuff.
Yeah,
I got
I
some
was about
things
to
to
say
say.
the reason we want to talk about it because like the topic said, the shit is running over. And from you know communicating with the city manager who is again new to the area, seeing this type of infrastructural issue in a municipal position is kind of devastating to him. So
Yes, I agree. It's
so
overwhelming at
yeah,
best.
and that's what was communicated to me, and how dire it is for the attention to happen on this particular level. So
There
shit is
are.
running over. Trisha, tell us what the shit is running over, man.
First, I want to say I have kept quiet about certain things because I just wanted some time to calm down before I relaxed. I have been through hell, and it could have been very easily made better with just a few things that were already in place. I understand that, the city manager was overwhelmed, he's new and all that, but we're not paying attention, I guess is the point. My home, every time the people upstairs in my apartment complex flushed, or just basically whenever, my toilet was backing up into my home. My tub was filling with their sewer, the sewer from the clean out, wherever. And I called for 47 maintenance calls to have them come and clean the clean out. And every day, sewer through my home. They'd come and use the snake. They drag it through my home. It was everywhere. My brand new home, by the way. There's a whole bunch of other things about that. But I called the city. Well, actually, I called the city. And I asked for specific help because the ordinance states that public nuisances need to be abated. Public nuisances include things that are damaging to our public health. Individuals' homes, they can't be in certain, repair, disrepair. The city had the ability to come in and make this apartment complex, put me somewhere safe where I could use my bathroom until they went and fixed their problem they were aware of before I moved in. And I don't say anything without being able to prove it, so I know what I'm talking about. And instead, they did nothing. They did nothing. There was a couple of moves made and some questions asked, and that was the end of it. I was forced to leave my home, and I'm living in a hotel here in Beaumont, paying weekly. And now I have to find another new home, but everything I had went into this new home because I had just moved in. All the money for the down payment, the deposits, all that. And then everything it took to maintain that, well, I couldn't go back to work because I was waiting every day on maintenance. The city had the ability to help me. They might not have been able to fix the issue, but they could have helped. And I think that if they're overwhelmed in certain areas, start small. Help the people who are being affected, even if you can't fix the problem. Do what's right. And we need to start paying attention to the fact that a lot of money is being spent on these issues and nothing's changing. Nothing's any better. The suffering is still going on, and people are just being ignored and lies are being told blatantly. I point them out all the time. I tag the city of Beaumont and I call it out, and nobody says anything. If we keep ignoring it, if we don't help ourselves, no one's going to help us. They can't.
So you said you had feces in your toilet, backing up in your toilet, not your own, but just probably the apartment complex.
My toilet, my tub. I was in the shower one day and it just started spitting up at me.
And your yard, if I'm not mistaken, yes. I saw a picture.
At the clean out, there was gray water. Yeah, where the clean out in the area, right in front of the patio, it rained and we had flooding, but that was the only gray water area. It's coming from underneath the house. The pipe is busted. They've been in there since I left. Immediately after I left, they went in because I had no choice, and they tore up the entire apartment. It was all busted underneath. They knew that when I moved in.
Didn't you get a visit from TCEQ?
I sure did, and he was in my bathroom here. I've been called a liar and everything. He was in my bathroom, and he was testing waters, and he did his little test, and he said, "There's sewer in this water." And I said, "What?" And I immediately started crying, and he realized what he said and tossed the water back in the tub and denied it. Didn't take any samples with him, just quit doing what he was doing and left. Oh. Not 5 minutes after he left my apartment, the entire complex lost water.
Wait, what?
I swear to God. And all of the fountains or all the hydrants around me, around 11th Street and 11th Street, they were all opened all at the same time within a few minutes. Then when I called on my council members, because I know I have more than one, when I called on them to ask questions and get answers and help, they already knew about this guy being in my apartment and denying that there was no sewer. He already called him and said, "There's no sewer in her water. What are you doing? Why are you calling there?" I have it all on recording, every bit of it. I had a nanny cam running, the whole nine. I was more focused on me and my immediate issue because I'm losing my home. I did, make a couple of people aware, but I don't know what happened. Nothing ever really came of it. It was denied. I was lying, but I don't lie and I can prove it.
Well, we know you're not lying. We know you're not lying because
the water was brown that day, and you were screaming about how it smelled on the other side of the city.
Yeah. Yeah, I was about to say we know how it smells on all sides of the city, especially
Yeah,
like I said, when the city of Beaumont sewers decides to take a fart, and you could smell it all over the
worse
city.
than that.
And there's particular areas that also need to call the city 311 number, request that they come out and open the hydrants, especially if you're smelling. You can smell your water.
Well,
So
here's the thing about the hydrants. They can come out and open them. That's fine. It's just going to come back. Over a
it
year
is.
ago,
It
before
is.
Corona consultants came here, they told us they had a plan in the works. It would just be a little bit longer. It was going to be ready. The
Well, I
consultants
mean,
came
you
here.
remember
There's no
TCEQ
plan at
gave
all.
them TCEQ gave them, but TCEQ Beaumont lay in bed with the city of Beaumont.
Oh, they're under an
So
SSOI that gives them permission to
yeah.
do whatever they want. But guess what? The
Hmm.
EPA does not recognize that SSOI. They don't recognize it. It's nothing. The
Right.
EPA will still fine the city. Just TCEQ won't.
Right. Right.
Well, if the EPA is not recognizing that, it's not okay that there's sewer flowing all over our city streets. It's not okay.
Yep. And into your drinking water and into your recreational outlets like rivers and
I
ditches
know.
and things like that. So
And we have
um
video of it happening all over the place. You can't deny it
yeah.
in your
Well,
home.
I do want to tell everybody thank y'all for watching our first show. We'll definitely be back on the first Thursday of the month. So we'll definitely have the link out to you so you can watch. Again, if you have any questions or comments, please feel free to drop those as you view this, whether it's now or later. Um, we'll go back through and check your
Oh boy.
questions and make sure that we respond and answer. And there go our host.
And even if you can't
No, I'm
actually
not.
run for city
I,
council,
I
pay
am not your
attention.
host. I am you, the
Yeah.
host. I'm not the host.
Look, well, there's our sponsor,
Why are you
Knowledge is
intruding
Power
then?
I really
Podcast
said,
live host Tony
yeah.
Renfro.
You want to be a guest?
Hey guys, good show, good dialogue.
Thank you, sir.
I watched you guys for the last hour. Excuse
He
me.
was eating.
No, I wasn't. I was
I'm picking
watching
on
you
you,
guys.
Tony.
I really was. I watched the show. They're
Yeah.
interesting, and so I want to make sure that we make that's a difference in the two shows. This show here is more about local, national issues, major issues that's going on in our own city that we can speak about and talk about, and we can discuss. And we have to build it so that we have more to come on, folks that needs to talk about what's going on in the area.
Absolutely.
My Sunday show, the Knowledge is Power show, is more of a dialogue of individual guests that entrepreneurs, business owners, artists, professional fields, and education is more what Knowledge is Power show is about. But the roundtable talk is all roundtable talk. That's all you do. It just talk about major issues that's going on in our neighborhood.
We're fact
So guys,
spreaders.
yeah, okay, we'll do that. But the Sunday show, the Knowledge Power show, is more of lifestyles. What's going on in the lifestyles? So education is most important. Knowledge is power. Must have power to have knowledge. Power is knowledge. Folks, we thank you for joining us on a Thursday for the first new roundtable talk with your hosts, Chris Jones and Tricia Primo. And of course, I guess I'm just a behind the scene guys down on Thursdays. So we hope that we can build this show up that we can have it twice a month, 3 times a month on Thursday at the same time. So I say God bless you, everyone. And thank you again, Chris, for a great show, man.
Thank you, sir.
Get ready for your next show.
Absolutely.
You only have 2 weeks left. You only have 2 weeks because we're doing this on I think we're doing this. This is the third Thursday of the month.
Yeah.
It's
So
going to be on the first.
We'll be
Well,
back
good, because I think we're going to have a lot to say really soon.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, guys.
Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all
All
for
right,
viewing.
enjoy. Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys. Okay. Bye-bye.